Happy Canada Day. Yeah, remember the good old days when, even if it was Canada Day, especially if it was Canada Day, people would go to church to celebrate that? Okay, that was maybe 1890 something, probably. But it's Canada Day, and people are celebrating Canada Day in the appropriately Canadian fashion. We're having fun and then apologizing to everyone. And that's good. It's good. And it's a beautiful day. People should be celebrating Canada Day. It's, the world is an interesting place right now. And we take great pride in being Canada, and we should. We take great pride, especially since we live next door to the U.S., and we get so much news and so much, we get so much. We get so much from the U.S. And we get lots of good things from the U.S. And we get some other stuff too. But lately, things have gone kind of crazy. And not just in the U.S., but in some European countries too. In fact, lots of places. Things have just got kind of chaotic and kind of out of hand. And it's, especially on a day like today, it's really easy to go, we're Canada. We're not like that. Because we're not. And in fact, I don't know if you've seen these, but there's lots of these little things going around now about all of the things that are Canadian that aren't American, or anywhere else for that matter, like really important stuff, like Coffee Crisp, the Canadian candy bar. Crispy Crunch is Canadian too. Not to mention those cheese twist things that are only made in Brockville, Ontario. The really crispy ones. Hawkins, that's the ones. Cheesies. Right, Cheesies, yeah. Only made in Brockville, Ontario, secret recipe. Yeah. Really important stuff. There's some other things like universal health care. And lots of other things that are really like truly Canadian things. And we're proud of those things, and that's awesome. It's not that those things aren't without their flaws. Except for Coffee Crisp. Because they do. They do have flaws, some of them. And I mean, universal health care is a perfect example. There are flaws in that system, but the intention of that system is good. The idea is that we take care of everybody. That's the point, right? That's why you say universal. There's lots of things going on. And lately, those things that are going on in the world have tended to find their way to being either this or this. There's no this part. It's either this or this, and things are very black and white. That was an unfortunate use of words. They're just not, we don't seem to find a way to get to a middle ground. There are extremes. In fact, the more extreme one side gets, the more extreme the other side gets, right? And people have very extreme opinions, and their opinion is this, and that's all there is to it. And lately, in fact, some people have decided that it's okay to justify those positions by using texts from the Bible, as if somehow we've managed to weaponize the Bible in a way that makes it useful to us, which is not what the Bible's all about at all. But the most obvious recent example was when the American Attorney General used a verse from Romans to justify what they were doing with immigrants at the southern border into the U.S., right? He quoted a verse from Romans 13 that says that you should obey the law and the government because the government is ordained by God to do that. So you should do that. You should obey the law. And there's lots of people have had lots to say about this, and people who are way smarter than me and better theologians than me and everything. The most obvious thing is that, of course, he's used the very verse from Romans that was used to oppose the abolition of slavery, and he's from Alabama. So you would think that he'd avoid that, but he didn't. He went full on into it. You'd think he also would have read 3 or 4 verses later where it says, love is the fulfillment of the law, and that loving your neighbor is the most important thing. But he didn't, apparently. What he did was take a verse out of the Bible to justify, to back up a certain behavior. And I would love to be the person who originally said this, but I think actually, since I've seen that Amy Butler is quoted as saying this, she's a pastor at the Riverside Church in New York. If you are using any verse from the Bible to back up something that is not about loving your neighbor, you're doing the wrong thing. Because everything about the Bible is about love and care for your neighbor. And if you're somehow using the Bible in a way that justifies behavior that hurts people, that's not what it's about. The thing is that people have started to now see that that's okay. And it's not just a question of the extreme behavior, it's backing it up with the Bible is okay. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to love you all, and back that up with the fact that that's what Jesus said in the Bible when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he went on to say, you should continue to love everyone the way I showed you how to love. Are we done? I think we're done. Because that covered it, didn't it? See, that's part of it's either this or it's that, isn't it? I mean, it's way, 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 way more complicated than that. The issue that the Attorney General broke down to essentially do as you're told because it's the law and God said you should obey the law, is way more complicated than that. It's way more complicated than that. I have no doubt that at some point somebody is misusing that system to get into the U.S. because it's such a wonderful, happening place to be right now if you're a foreigner. But I have no doubt that somebody somewhere along the line is misusing that. But lots of people are not. So why are we punishing the people who aren't? Well, it's not that simple, is it? It's very complex. It's a very complex issue. It's not the only one either. There's lots of other issues that are very complex that the current American government seems to want to turn into something that's very simple. And it's about power and control. But they're not alone. Our 151 years of history as a country is loaded with all sorts of things to point at. We recently did a blanket exercise here at the church, which is a way of engaging the last sort of 500 years or so of history in North America from a completely different perspective than we're used to hearing. In fact, a perspective that until fairly recently we weren't interested in hearing and had no desire to hear about. It's complicated. All of the things that are happening in the world right now are complicated. It's way more complex. You can't simply reduce it to a simple, it's got to go this way or it's got to go that way. Except there is a level at which it is very simple. And it's the thing that's missing in all of this complexity. It's not about the law, it's about justice. It's not about who to love or who to hate, who's your enemy and who's your friend. It's about treating everybody with respect because they're a human being. It's about the absence or apparent absence of care and compassion. There's a story recently, you probably saw this the other day, and again, this is not a new story. We've heard this kind of story before, where somebody in the U.S. was deported to Mexico after he had grown up in the U.S., served in the U.S. military, done 2 tours of Afghanistan, come back with PTSD, which caused him to start using drugs, which caused him to start using drugs illegally, which caused him to get arrested, go to jail, and therefore they could revoke his green card and deport him. Does that sound right? Doesn't that? The Bible is full of stories about Jesus very definitely saying, it's like this. And if you do this, you're good and you're going to get into heaven, and if you don't, then you're going to burn in the very fiery pits. Of course it isn't full of stories of that. It's full of stories of Jesus being compassionate and caring and loving with everyone. This is a story within a story that we heard this morning. And there's lots of detail in it. It is actually quite a complex thing, and worthy of a lengthy Bible study. It absolutely is. But the overarching theme in these two stories, and one of the things that connects them surely, is the fact that it didn't matter to Jesus whether it was somebody who snuck up on him or whether it was a leader in the synagogue. You know, those people that he wasn't always really happy with, who asked him for help. They both got the same care and compassion. There was a moment, I'm sure, when the leader of the synagogue was kind of thinking, no, I didn't. You stopped to help that lady, and my daughter is dead. To which Jesus replied, obviously, with, don't be afraid, just believe. You'll see. The same care and compassion. Didn't matter who they were. And think about this lady for a minute who sneaks up on Jesus in a crowd. Okay, so she'd been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. That's sort of Bible speak for it was a lady issue that probably involved blood. And as I'm sure you're well aware, that's one of those things in Hebrew culture that is very definitely that you're done. Nothing to do with you. You are now outcast. It's like, say, I don't know, touching somebody who's dead, which Jesus is about to do like 5 minutes later. So her very presence in that crowd was wrong to begin with, as far as society was concerned. If she'd been caught in that crowd, imagine, you can't imagine what would have happened to her if she'd been caught in that crowd before she touched Jesus. And then Jesus outs her. Except he doesn't, because she's healed. She's restored. But she was somebody who, and I mean, you can sort of get this from the story, right, where it says that she basically spent all of her money on trying to get well, and it didn't work. In fact, she got worse. So at some point, she probably did have money, which meant at some point she probably did have a family, and she probably had a place in society, and she could afford to live well, probably, much like the leader of the synagogue, except she lost all that. In fact, she didn't just lose all her money, she lost her family too, probably, and she lost everything because now she was an outcast. And she sneaks into the crowd and sneaks up on Jesus. She touches him, she's healed, and he immediately turns around, outs her, calls for the guards, and has her sent to prison. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Earlier, right at the very beginning of the story, right, they get out of the boat, they're there, Jairus comes up to him and says, help me. And Jesus, of course, immediately says, no, I don't like your kind, and walks away. No, he doesn't. He says, let's go. He actually, in the story, doesn't say anything. He just goes. Who's got time for talking? We might as well go. And off they go. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. In fact, this is another in a series of, it doesn't matter who it is, stories, right? This story begins with, got out of the boat by the sea, which, if you remember last week, that's how last week's story began. Jesus got in the boat to cross to the other side. Except we missed a story. They leapfrogged over a story. So he's not actually on the other side of the lake. He's back where he started now. Right? So, remember last week, Jesus got in the boat, and it's the story of the storm that Jesus calms the storm on the Sea of Galilee, and then they get to the other side. And personally, I've always thought that story was really just about getting to the other side. But he gets to the other side. Then is the story, we have the story of Jesus casting out the demons, who are legion, from the man who's possessed. Remember this story of Jesus casts out the demons into the pigs, and the pigs all go and drown themselves, and everyone's sad because there's no bacon? I added that last bit because I'm sad because bacon. But that's the story that happens in between. As a result of that story, everyone in that community is so scared of Jesus. Remember how the disciples were kind of scared of Jesus from calming the storm? Everyone in that community is so scared of Jesus, they ask him to leave. So he gets back in the boat with the disciples, and they cross back to the other side, which is where this story picks up. Right? So he's back where he started, basically, with this story, and he gets out of the boat, and a leader of the synagogue comes up to him. You know, the leaders of the synagogue were not really fans of Jesus, and he wasn't fans of theirs either. He comes up to Jesus and says, "Can you help me?" And of course, off Jesus goes. But we're on the popular side of the lake now, right? The other side of the lake, they wanted Jesus to leave because they were scared of him. But we're back on the side of the lake that Jesus is popular, so there's a crowd. And everybody wants to touch Jesus, probably because they think he's a celebrity. And he's cool, right? Because he does all this stuff. They'd heard all these stories. Hey, look, it's Jesus. And in that crowd of people is somebody who desperately needs him. In fact, that's one of the things that connects the two main characters in the story. They're both desperate for help. In fact, there's probably a point at which you can guess that Jairus gives up. It's a point at which somebody tells him that his daughter's dead, and Jesus says, "Don't be afraid. Just believe." He might as well have just said, "We just had a fine example of somebody who believes over here. In all this crowd of people, only one person believe like that, and we're good." And off they go, and Jesus brings his daughter back to life. Or was she sleeping? Jesus uses kind of interesting language here, doesn't he? Where he says, she's not dead, she's just sleeping. Whatever it is that's happening in this story, whoever it's happening to, Jesus approaches all of that the same way, with the same love and care and compassion. Isn't that the ingredient that's missing in all of these stories that we're reading in the news? These things are happening, and it appears as though love and care and compassion just went out the window. And if one of the reasons that love and care and compassion went out the window is because these people are our enemy, love your enemy? Did you read that part? Your enemy is still worthy of love and care and compassion. In fact, the more love and care and compassion that you share, the less likely it is that your enemy is going to be your enemy. Everyone is worthy of love and care and compassion. Here we are celebrating Canada Day, and we live in a country that is worthy of celebration. We truly do. We are truly worthy of celebration. We are also worthy of learning and celebrating that learning. And there are many points in our history that needed to have been addressed with care and compassion that perhaps weren't. And there are moments now that we have an opportunity to share care and compassion and love. We can celebrate today who we are. But as we go forward, we need to also remember that there's a whole bunch more days in a year that we need to pay attention to who we are. And there is one thing that makes all of that complexity of who we are, all that complexity of diversity, all of that complexity of society and law and our place in the world and all of that stuff simpler. It's care and compassion and love for everyone. Respect, justice, all of these are the things. These are the things that one should be quoting from the Bible. Because the Bible isn't about using words of Jesus to back up what we do or how we behave. The Bible is about learning to live and to share that living with others. It's about learning to live with compassion and care and justice and creating a place where that's happening. And that's always an ongoing work. That's a work in progress forever. But that's what these stories are about. They're stories about learning to live with love and compassion and care.